the cloud. And at some point we will start. Hello there, Conner Torres. I am Andrea Goeglein, and with me today, in addition to my staff cat, Ivy, is my friend and mastermind cohort, Conner Torres. And we're going to have one of the first iterations of the Still Rising conversations that I have for YouTube. And the reason I think it is so cool to start with Conner is because he is part of my younger tribe. And he is someone that represents the more outward evolution that I'm willing to take in the correlation of how do you live a great life at any age? And who cares if it's not the way it used to be? So, Conner, introduce yourself. Tell us about your company, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, Andrea. And yeah, I just, as part of our mastermind, just want to say that I learned so much from you. And I know that, this has been an amazing mixing of ideas over time. Yeah, I am an all-around technologist. I am a video game developer, and I specialize in, innovative game development technologies and technology in general, like AI. And I teach that as well. And uh, am an overall fascinated person at the time that we happen to be alive. And there's a lot to think about, and talk about in terms of where the future is going.
And uh, just because of the conversations that we had about like what matters now when it comes to where we are and how we're functioning in the world, and the fact that we are still economic beings, very much so. And the conversation was about, really, we want to talk about the way we vibe and how we sense things and how we're adding all of that in, or actually leading those parts of our lives with what we're doing economically. Would you agree with that statement?
The whole economy is changing for a variety of reasons:
Hmm.
socio-political, cultural. Trends are changing. Things are not stable in any way,
You think?
in pretty much any domain. And technologically, we're undergoing a revolution of unfathomable, seismic, exponential, unpredictable proportions. And that is primarily in the field of computational technology, things like AI, but also innovations in hardware, the transition from CPUs to GPUs being the primary data processing, hardware, and
Right.
very strange things coming out of quantum computing. So yeah, how does that relate to the economics of the individual or the family unit? Uh, it relates, and it's a tide that's rising, and we all sort of are affected by it. There's no way to avoid it. That this thing that we interact with, called the internet and computers, is changing in ways that are, it's revolutionary. There are things in my field of game development that you had to do manually, a year or 2 or 3 years ago, that an AI system will spit out better than you very, very quickly, almost instantly. I was just writing code this morning using AI, and it does a phenomenal job. And I don't understand all of the code that I'm writing, but it does it because it understands it. And
Right.
so, yeah, these things open up huge opportunities for people who are willing to spend time researching this and immersing themselves in the opportunities there. Um,
But where we spend most of our time is because of everything you just said, I think can be summarized in the word unpredictable. That, what's happening next, we cannot predict in a way that we used to think we could, around if I do this and study for this, I will be able to be employed in that. And because of that, what brought us together, that intentionality and the how we were willing to listen and how we were paying attention to our emotional intelligence and the word vibe, like did we get along? All of a sudden, I feel that the more unpredictable our ability to use the front of our brain to determine what I should do next, what's logical to do next, we're more willing to open up to, there's a whole bunch of stuff I can't see or understand. I mean, you just said you were writing code with AI and you didn't understand some, but it was doing an incredible job. And so, with one of the things that came up in our going back and forth, like what matters to others right now. And I would summarize just in this short part that we've done so far. Number one, you better get so used to the rate of change and then what is changing and the fact you don't understand it very fast. And two, there may be other ways for you to develop knowing and comfort so that you can then see faster, how do I fit into this new schema before it races by so far that, you just whiplash. Are those 2 points like fair?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so in terms of unpredictability, the environment that we find ourselves in, even all of the best data scientists around the world did not predict that this AI revolution would ever take place. Everyone was essentially estimating that yes, there were going to be major advances in artificial intelligence, going the late 2020s and the 2030s,
Hmm.
and that these things are more or less going to be kind of innovations contained within a lab, in a computer in a university campus somewhere. Not distributed on the internet. This revolution, that's based off of something called the LLM, which is what ChatGPT and all of that AI technology is based off of, which is mimicking a neural network like the brain. It was totally
Right.
unpredicted for by the best in the field, and we're in this place where yeah, no, you spending time probably trying to predict 10 to 15 moves ahead is not a necessarily bad activity to engage in, but things are changing at such a quick rate that it really does make one more present. And I think that what's so interesting is as we have this sort of technological revolution, we've talked about this before, there is a spiritual revolution for sure occurring. And you can see this in YouTube comments, you can see this in very strange phenomena that again human beings did not expect and were not and are not used to yet or getting used to. Things like endless AI videos trained on human philosophers and lecturers trained on their content, on their voice, now saturating the medium, both pros and cons. I won't just say that there's bad
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
that. This idea that I can have an infinite portal into Alan Watts or an infinite portal into, I pick any lecturer, any philosopher. What AI is doing is it's taken all the human stuff that we spent, 5,000 years recorded history putting together and remixing it infinitely, sort of turning these kind of infinity mirrors to us that we
Yeah.
experience through the internet. And we go, huh. And this is causing a reflection back that's making us very aware,
Hmm.
very scared, very, if you're trying to be adaptive, it makes you very present.
Yeah.
And there's a consciousness revolution happening,
Yeah.
which is people are getting a little bit off the autopilot, which, in a predictable system, predictable environment, you can get into an autopilot. What you have a job, there's certain expectations, you put in a certain input, you get expected output. And in this environment, conscious human beings are going, whoa, what is this situation I found myself in? Like, and they're asking questions like, who am I? You know,
Okay. So pause right there. Um, you tell us what you do. You have explained the basic cognitive dissonance that we're all kind of swimming in at this moment. What do you do on a daily basis? You, a 30 something, a young 30 something. um, do on a daily basis to integrate, preserve, develop your consciousness as you're also developing games and websites and teaching classes and doing all of that? What comes first?
Mm, right. Um, well, I spend all of my conscious attention within the context of my conscious mind. And what I mean by that is, you know, that's the truth for all of us. We are conscious. So, what do you choose to fill up your consciousness with? My day is split between developing things technically in the old fashioned way and in the new fashioned way. Um, it involves being extremely curious so that, in every interaction, every meeting, every drive, every walk, kind of asking and wondering and philosophizing. And some of that has I guess, a utility to it, or I guess I'm trying to, predict what to do with this stuff. But also you just left in wonderment. I meditate, which gets me out of my thoughts and makes me more
Okay.
present. And that skill of mindfulness, I actually think will probably be the fundamental skill going into the next decade, because at the end of the day,
Okay.
while tools can do things for you and can do everything, as we're getting closer to that, you still have to be with you. And you also have to be an effective decision maker. So the quality with which you make decisions, or the quality with which you exist within your own mind, is going to be the determiner of success going into the next decade, because it's your choices that matter. What used to matter was skills in the regard of, like, how do I do said
How
thing?
do I do it? Yeah.
Yeah, and
Now
now
there's a YouTube video for that.
and an AI that can spin off and do it for you and stuff. And of course, there are lots of basic skills that you have to do to get to that point where you can
Yeah.
call that integration. But
Right.
really, it's choice making that's the main skill. So, what is the skill that makes
Right.
you
Critical
effective?
thinking and choice making. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's critical thinking and choice making. So, what is the sort of skill that maximizes those things? And it is
Well,
being
wait.
present.
So I want to recap because you said some very important things. You talked about being personally curious. You talked about meditating. I want to add to it because it's one of the things I observed. You carry notebooks with you.
Oh, yeah.
You write things down.
Look, I'm all around me. I got one right here.
I know you are a writer. So I just want to, capture some of these things. Very different. Your process is very different than my process, which has every one of those same things in it, except I schedule it. It's the first thing I do every day. Whereas I know you and many your age in my life do those exact same things, but you go more with the flow of how it fits into your day.
Mm.
And it's integrated into your day somewhat differently. Is that a fair observation?
Yeah, and it's something that's always evolving. I haven't settled on the best task creation tool. So, I carry, this is very old tech, right? Old
Yep.
technology. I carry a pocket-sized notebook with me pretty much everywhere. And so that way I can put in notes, ideas, and this kind of stuff. That's important, but you also have to, again, maximize the person who's doing the writing. So,
Yeah.
you can't just like write something down. Like, you actually have to review it and you have to be like with it and not distracted and consciously evaluate, okay, what does this mean? So there's a whole process to, incorporating old tech. And something like this could be filled with ideas or tasks or whatever. Even on the context of using technology and new technology to maximize what you can do. Right now, I'm developing for myself a dashboard that is a dashboard for all of my responsibilities, so that I can have one place, it's a website, and I have an overview of my company, product, services, all the resources that usually I'm digging into Google Drive folders for, and company logos and assets and PDFs. And, oh, did I send him? I know I need contract 2.5, not 2. Let me do that. Just silly stuff. I'm putting it in one
Yeah.
place. And also
Right.
doing one where I have my personal skills listed out. And so I can have an honest measurement of that, and also set aims for myself. Like, yeah, where's my focus at? Where's my discipline at? again, using self-awareness to maximize the individual that's doing the choice making, and then other things. So I'm vibe coding many elements of this particular dashboard. So yeah, the process is always evolving, and I have a creative involvement in developing that process.
Yeah. That's really, and I've got to say that one of the things that I appreciate, um, you talked about the speed of change and how even the best minds didn't expect what's happened in the last 12 to 14 and what we're now predicting, the next 12 to 14 weeks versus we're talking weeks and months versus years for everything that we talk about, simply because of the way the technology works. And I had to appreciate that in 95, so just about 30 years ago, when I was in the process of writing my dissertation on transformational leadership and the moral development of transformational leadership, I had really wanted to study the spiritual nature. What is the spirit of leadership? Meaning the breath, the thoughts, what comes way before all the skills and the tasks and everything. And I wrote this one paragraph that the emergence of the topics of business and consciousness in the same sentence is too new to consider comfortable in the workplace. That was just 30 years ago. And y- there is not anyone in my preview of people your age who do not use the word consciousness continually. Maybe not right, but it's a word that has become part of the daily conversation of your generation. And I think that alone, coupled with what you're talking about, the impact of AI and how upskilling critical thinking, being able to know when AI is right and when it's leading you in better directions versus what it may be telling you to do when it comes to a piece of code or when it comes to a recipe that you want to make for dinner. Your ability to know or to test or to question curiosity where you started, I think becomes so important. You know, um, I get where you are at this moment. And I will say that I sense differently than I have, like, we've probably we probably met just about a year ago. So our point of still rising is, and I hear and see in you in our meetings and today greater, and I'll use the word caution, as to how we should proceed and how we have to prepare ourselves to proceed. Am I sensing that correctly?
You're probably sensing something like that, which that's an effect of being more present and being more conscious in this neurotic world. And it's a neurotic world, a neurotic business world where people aren't present. They don't meditate. They don't consider mindfulness a skill, even though it is the skill behind all skills, right? If
Right.
you are mindful when you write that email, if you're mindful when you go to, I don't know, make a deal or a sales call, if you're mindful with your work, you're really present for it, you do better work and you learn faster. But yet, the whole marketplace, I mean, every business is making dumb, stupid decisions. It boggles the mind. It's like, how could, with all your resources and all your people, why is human stupidity so commonplace on blast? And so at some point, like the economics of being here now, right? And that's the thing, like
Mhm.
the road that led me to spirituality, which, I've been omnivorous in everything that I take in. Like very
Right.
scientifically minded, very curious, very open, very philosophical, open-minded. And what happened was, in seeking what was most effective, that's what led me to what was quote most spiritual. And people mistake spirituality because, and we should define what consciousness is even. Um, spirituality in its realest sense is not in necessarily crystals or other things like, it can be those things, or those could be tools or whatever. But
Right.
sometimes there's a veneer that gets people like, well, it's not real. It's not. The thing is spirituality is the most real. It's dealing with the
Right.
thing that you only have proof of, which is your existence, your awareness, what's here with that. And there are patterns to that, and then noted throughout spiritual traditions, etc. Um, we get so seduced by the reality of Excel spreadsheets and scientific reports and
Right.
people's belief systems that get handed outside of us. We get into a world of neurotical thinking and behaving that is detrimental to our bottom line. So,
Yeah.
it's one of those weird things where seek what is most practical and you'll end up in something akin to consciousness, be here now. Again, what does that mean, consciousness? Because it's a term that gets more, it can get misdefined. It simply means your subjective experience. Like you know that there's something, that you exist, and there's a world right here in front of you. Anything else beyond that is an inference you have to take more or less on faith. That faith could be convincing, like,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, this thing here of being here, being very awake and present, which you get through with mindfulness or meditation or whatever techniques work for you. But primarily, it's coming back to mindfulness, which in a way is thinking less so that there's greater quality to the things that you think and do, would be one way of maybe summarizing it. But yeah, that's the skill of the 21st century, as
Yeah.
things that we do get offset by technology.
Sure. Well, I'm thinking, from a still rising concept, your evolution and mine with you, and how I mean, like, I'm in the process of blowing up everything that I've spent the last 55 years working on, and reshuffling it. And a, a lot because of where I am in life, my life phase, a lot because of what AI can do that I used to do, and a lot because I just want to play differently than I've played before. So I want to ask you, not looking out really far, but how do you sense yourself evolving just in the next 12 months?
I love that. I hope to develop out more present mindedness and more, as I said, of a structure so that the disciplined qualities of myself can go into the focus areas that require it. The other big skill set of the 21st century is something called user experience, UX. It's a term that's less
Hmm.
than 30 years old. It showed up originally in web development. It's simply
Hmm.
a field that studies a user's experience with a product or service. It really watches
Okay.
how they interact with it and tries to make it as simple as intuitive as possible. Though it showed up in software, it's something that you're going to see show up in all products and services, and both in the private enterprise as well as public. Um, UX will be what will be maximized for, because now that the how is being able to be offset in by technology, the quality is what can get human attention. And so you're going to find that designers and engineers and developers and businessmen and analysts and all these, those people who can maximize for a better user experience will make a product that will be more competitive in marketplaces, which will be otherwise completely saturated, because again, the how to make something work is going to be solved. So when I look at myself going into the next 12 months, I want, and I'm already ahead of the average on this, but I want my world to be so UXified, so automated, simple, little button presses here, things taken care of, so that my conscious attention, which is so precious, you don't have 24 hours in a day, you sleep for 8 of it, you're eating and talking for other ones, and you have so
Work.
much, you gotta work, you gotta engage in neurosis, you gotta meditate it away. Like, so the actual precious moments of human decision making, which we waste so haphazardly at the moment, that is the skill of the future, UX. So I expect in the next 12 months that I'm just going to be like this, UX person where like I've just got, I've got systems and collapse tasks. Something used to take 5 to 10 steps, now it takes one or two in all domains so that I can be very present with the quality of the work that I do. And that optimization will be a force multiplier on the output that I can get. Anybody who applies that will see the same effect.
That's a really incredible, like the simplification of the daily things that you have to do so that you can, in fact, spend far more time expanding your piece and how you think and how you critically think. Like that, what I heard you saying was that you were going to up level the space for peace by using technology to simplify your life at every level. There?
Absolutely. Very fair. The most coveted asset on earth is inner peace. So we're running
Right.
around trying to do all these other things, but really all of trying to fulfill all these desires and, build our empires or get our money or whatever it is that we try to do. At the end of the day, like we actually just want to feel good. So the feeling good metric is the other thing that people get to pursue here when they UXify their life or they become present. So these things, they apply across domains, but you have to have that as a value. You have to be like,
Super.
yeah, I want to feel
Yeah.
good. I want to make it happen.
Well, I think we're good for today. There is a question that I wanted to ask, though, that you absolutely had no idea I was going to ask. So none of us know, including you, what kind of answer. But it just was something that kind of floated through my mind. When I'm suppressing the anxiety for others of where are they going to get jobs? Like my needing a job from the outside is at the lowest level possible, and yet my eye is on all the 20, 30, 40, and 50-year olds who still have decades to keep going on this puppy. And it's like, where are they going to get jobs? Um, so I'll take a different stance. If you, at your young age, had $10 million today, what would your day look like?
I'm not sure it would look too much different from the things that I'm already doing. What I'm doing at the moment is, it could be described in a word as resourcefulness. And so
Hmm.
those resources be channeled through extreme resourcefulness. In
Yeah.
terms of the comment of like, what do people in the 20s and 30s who are entering this uncertain job market, goes back to not being a statistic. I don't know population wise how this gets solved. I think probably something like universal basic income and like figuring out healthcare in this country needs to happen ASAP because things are getting really expensive and jobs are going to go away because that's how the system is. In terms of if you're listening to this as an individual, though, yeah, just don't be in that group. Blue ocean strategy, like learn these
Yeah.
tools. And, so those are two separate questions. It's like, what do you do as an
Yeah.
individual?
But actually, from my standpoint, from where I sit, you answered it as perfectly as a young person could. Because it says that, yeah, my life is not perfect today, but I'm doing things that I would actually continue to do, even if, at a 10% return, I was getting $1 million a year and didn't have to work because I had this asset behind me. Um, that's a great grounding for a person to be, no matter what their age, that the influx of income beyond what they would need to take care of inflation and all those other things, they're willing to continue to do a lot of the things they're doing today. So I'm going to say, good job, Connor.
Thank you, Andrea.
Good job, Connor. So, on that note, I will just end this session of Still Rising. I look forward to our mastermind group on Thursday because I have lots and lots of updates for myself. And I just want to thank you, Conner Torres. I am Andrea Goeglein. We are all still rising. And my suggestion is you just find the playground you want to play in so that you can rise as high as you want to be, no matter what your age. Thank you for being with us today. And I will turn off our recording. I will stop the cloud recording. Yes.